Have you ever noticed that there are women who walk into a room, and for one person in particular, time seems to stand still? She may not be the most striking, the loudest, or the most perfectly beautiful by the standards of glossy magazines. But there is something about her, some intangible detail that makes a man's gaze catch, follow her, and refuse to let go, as if he's been caught in an invisible gravitational field. He himself might not understand what it is that draws him in so powerfully. His conscious mind, his ego, will stammer to his friends about her smile, her hair, or her sense of humor. But all of this is just a desperate, clumsy attempt by the rational mind to explain what is happening on a much deeper, unconscious level, on the level of the soul. There, where words are powerless and pure, primordial energy reigns. The modern world is overflowing with advice on how to hook a man, but it all misses the point because it speaks the language of the mind, not the language of the soul. There is a detail in a woman's appearance and behavior that acts on the male psyche, like a quiet but all-pervading hypnosis. It is something men never speak of aloud, because they often cannot formulate it themselves. They cannot put this vague, yet powerful feeling into words. It is not the size of her breasts, the length of her legs, or the color of her eyes. It is something far more subtle, ancient, and powerful. Carl Jung, who dedicated his life to studying the depths of the human soul, would call this a manifestation of the anima, the female soul, the inner image of a woman that lives in every man's unconscious. This is not a specific woman, but rather an archetypal image woven from myths, personal experience, and collective notions of femininity. When a man meets a woman in whom this energy is manifested authentically, not artificially, not as a rehearsed role, he unconsciously recognizes in her a reflection of his own most intimate part. He feels like he's come home, and this feeling is so strong that he loses his will, he freezes. He wants to be near this source. So what is this detail? It is not one specific trait that can be copied. It is wholeness. It is how a woman's inner world, her soul, her authentic self, her light and her shadow, accepted and united, shines through and leaves an invisible yet palpable mark on her every gesture, glance, and even her silence. It is not a mask she wears, but her true essence made visible. Wholeness is when there is no gap between what a woman feels and what she projects. Her appearance becomes not a facade, but an extension of her soul. Today, we will talk about how this magical wholeness manifests in one's appearance. We will break down the very details that drive men mad, not because they are sexy in a primitive physiological sense, but because they are windows into the soul of a truly alive, awakened, whole woman. The final manifestations will be especially important. They are the most subtle, the hardest to fake, but they are the ones that produce the most indelible effect. Are you ready to discover the power hidden within you and how to let it emerge, to become the one from whom it's impossible to look away? Then listen closely. Manifestation 1. A living, unpredictable gaze. The eyes are the mirror of the soul. This phrase is such a cliché that we've stopped thinking about its meaning, but it holds the key. There are two types of gaze. The first is the gaze of the huntress, the gaze of assessment, the transactional gaze. A woman looks at a man to figure out, what can I get from you? Are you good enough, rich enough, interesting enough? She looks in order to be liked, to get approval, to hook him. Her gaze is a tool, a mask, the persona, as Jung would say. It is functional, it is purposeful, but it is dead. It holds no mystery, only calculation and anxiety. And then there is the second type of gaze, living, unpredictable, the witness gaze. This is the gaze of a woman who looks not to evaluate, but to see. She looks at the world with the curiosity of a child, but with a depth of wisdom. Her gaze is not fixed on the man, It is free. It wanders, noticing the play of light on the wall, a bird flying past the window, the expression on the waiter's face. And then, suddenly, it returns to you, direct, deep, penetrating. And in that moment, the man feels that he isn't being scanned. He is being seen in his entirety, with his strength and his vulnerability. Her gaze is not a spotlight demanding a performance, but moonlight that gently illuminates what is already there. Jung taught that the anima is not only about tenderness and beauty, but also about a connection to nature, to chaos, to the uncontrollable, elemental side of life. A woman connected to her inner essence does not try to control her gaze to make the right impression. It lives a life of its own. It can be warm and accepting like a summer afternoon, then distant and pensive like an autumn fog, then suddenly mischievous, with a playful twinkle deep within. This unpredictability is captivating. A man cannot understand the logic of her gaze, cannot anticipate it. He cannot read and classify her, which means she becomes a mystery to him. And mystery is the most powerful magnet for the male soul, which has grown tired of clear and predictable roles. He sees in her eyes not a reflection of his own expectations, but an entire universe that lives by its own laws. He is unconsciously drawn to this mystery because it promises him something more than just a relationship. It promises him an encounter with life itself in all its multifaceted glory. Stop looking at a man as an object to be conquered or charmed. Stop searching his eyes for approval or confirmation of your worth. Start looking at the world. Let your gaze be free. Be amazed. Notice the details that no one else sees. And when you do look at him, look as if you are seeing him for the first time. Not as a man, a social function, but as a unique living being with his own story. This living, uncontrolled gaze is the first detail that will unconsciously tell him, this is not a function before me. This is a soul. Manifestation 2. The rhythm of her presence, expressed in movement. Notice how most people move in the modern world. Sharply, jerkily, functionally. We rush, we fuss. Our movements are subordinated to a goal. Get there faster, do it faster, respond faster. It is a masculine, logocentric world, a world of achievement and anxiety. Now imagine a woman who moves differently. Her walk is unhurried but not lazy. It has a dignity to it. She seems to float through space rather than push her way through it. When she sits at a table, she doesn't plop down into a chair, but rather lowers herself into it, as if entering into a dialogue with the object. When she picks up a cup, her fingers don't snatch the handle, but embrace it, feeling its warmth and shape. In her every movement, there is a certain completeness, a fluidity, a mindfulness. Her movements are a rebellion against the world's frantic pace. This is not an affected mannerism. It is a manifestation of her inner rhythm. Jung would say that this is a manifestation of her connection to the self, the center of her psyche, her inner sun. A woman who lives in harmony with herself does not hurry. She is not trying to keep up with the external world because her center is within. She moves from this center, and her body becomes not just an instrument, but a temple for her soul, in which a steady flame burns. For the male unconscious, this is a powerful signal. In a world of chaos, stress, and competition, he suddenly sees an island of tranquility, order, and harmony. Her fluid, confident movements tell him, it is safe here. You can breathe here. There is order here, not a rigid one, but a natural, organic one, like the changing of the seasons. Her body is not tense in anticipation of an attack or an attempt to please. It is relaxed and open. It trusts the space. Her presence physically changes the atmosphere in the room. This detail, her unique bodily rhythm, is hypnotic. A man, without realizing it, begins to attune himself to this rhythm. His speech becomes calmer, his gestures less sharp, His heartbeat slows. He enters her energy field like a ship entering a calm harbor after a storm. He feels that with her. He can shed his social armor, his persona, and just be. How can you cultivate this? Start by slowing down completely. Stop doing several things at once. When you walk, just walk. Feel your feet touching the ground. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the air on your skin. When you drink tea, just drink tea. Feel its warmth, its aroma, its taste. Practice yoga, dance, qigong, anything that teaches you to listen to your body and move from within. Don't try to move beautifully or sexily. Try to move mindfully. Your body is smarter than you think. Let it find its own unique rhythm. And this rhythm will become music that the male subconscious will listen to with bated breath. Manifestation 3, the timbre of her voice and the art of silence. The voice is the audible embodiment of our soul. You can say the most correct and intelligent things, but if your voice sounds tense, high-pitched, strained, or, conversely, too loud and aggressive, the magic will not happen. It will just be noise, mental clutter that one wants to turn off. The detail that mesmerizes a man is not what a woman says, but how she says it. Her voice does not try to break through the din to prove a point. It resonates from deep within, from her chest, not from her throat. It has a velvety, enveloping timbre that doesn't assault the ears, but caresses them. It is unhurried. Between her phrases, there are pauses filled not with awkwardness, but with meaning, with air, with space, for thought. Such a voice is a sign that a woman is not afraid of silence. Moreover, she values it. She does not try to fill every second of air with nervous chatter to avoid discomfort. Nervous chatter is a smokescreen, hiding a fear of not being accepted, a fear that if I fall silent, you will see who I really am and leave. But she is comfortable in silence, and this drives a man crazy. Why? Because in our world, silence is tension. It's awkwardness. It's a sign that something is wrong. But in her presence, silence is peace. It is intimacy. It is a space where you can say nothing and yet feel a deep, non-verbal connection. Her silence is not a weapon, like the silent treatment. It is a sanctuary. Jung would say that this is a manifestation of her integrated shadow. She is not afraid of her dark, silent, introverted sides. She accepts them and finds strength in them. Therefore, her silence is not cold and rejecting, but warm and inviting. A man feels that with her, he doesn't have to constantly entertain, be interesting, or gush with ideas. He can just be silent. And in this silence, he recovers. He comes to himself. He hears himself perhaps for the first time in years. A woman who knows how to speak in a low, calm voice and is not afraid of pauses unconsciously communicates. I am self-sufficient. I don't need your constant attention to feel good. I am an ocean, not a rushing stream. You can immerse yourself in my silence and find peace and treasure there. To find this voice, practice breathing exercises like diaphragmatic breathing. Speak more slowly than you are used to. Consciously create pauses in conversation, letting your words hang in the air. And most importantly, stop being afraid of silence. When a pause occurs in a conversation, don't rush to fill it. Just smile and hold it. You will be surprised at the magical effect this produces. Your silence will become more eloquent than any words. Manifestation 4. An authentic smile, not meant for approval. There is the social smile, polite, forced, functional. It's part of the persona, the mask we wear. We smile to be seen as pleasant, to smooth over conflict, to get what we need. Men see this smile hundreds of times a day. They are used to it, and it evokes no emotion in them other than the recognition of a social ritual. But there is another smile, an authentic one. It is born not in the mind, but in the heart. It appears on a woman's face, not because it's supposed to, but because something has genuinely amused or delighted her. It might be barely perceptible, like a faint ripple on water, or it might be wide and open, like the summer sun. But its main feature is that it is not intended for an audience. It is for herself. It is her inner light, breaking through to the surface. Her joy is not a performance for the public. It is a quiet, personal celebration of her own being. A woman might be walking down the street, lost in thought, and suddenly smile. She might be listening to you, and at some point, the corners of her lips will twitch into a smile because she caught some subtle note in your words, or simply felt good in that moment. This smile asks for nothing in return. It is a pure gift. For the male unconscious, this is a revelation. He sees that he is with a person whose source of joy is internal, not external. She is not trying to please him. She is not using her smile as a tool of manipulation. She is simply living, and her joy is a natural manifestation of her being. She is not waiting for someone to make her happy. She is already the source of her own happiness. Jung taught that the path to individuation is the path to authenticity. An authentic smile is a sign that a woman is in touch with her inner child, with her ability to rejoice in simple things. It speaks of her psychological health and self-sufficiency. This detail her sudden, sincere, undirected smile has enormous magnetic power. A man instinctively wants to become part of this world where joy arises just because, for no apparent reason. He wants to be the one who elicits this smile, not because he told a joke, but because his very presence fits harmoniously into her world. Stop smiling out of politeness. Allow yourself not to smile if you don't feel like it, and look for reasons. For sincere joy in the little things. Smile at your thoughts. Smile at the sun. Smile at the music. Keep a gratitude journal to train your brain to notice the good. And when you do smile in a man's presence, let that smile be a gift, not a request. Manifestation 5, the tenderness and strength in her hands. Hands are an extension of our heart. How a woman uses her hands says more about her than words. This is not about manicures or expensive rings. It's about the energy that flows through her fingers. There are hands that are functional, businesslike, sharp. Hands that are constantly fidgeting, drumming on the table, betraying inner anxiety. And then there are hands in which every movement reveals mindfulness. She adjusts her hair, not with a sharp movement, but with a fluid, almost caressing one. She touches the edge of a table, and in this touch, there is no nervousness, but a calm exploration of texture. Her gestures are not sweeping and chaotic, but contained and precise, as if they are dancing in the air, completing her thoughts. But the most hypnotic detail is her accidental, fleeting, non-sexual touch. She laughs and lightly touches his arm. She explains something and traces a shape in the air, and her fingers brush his shoulder for a second. There is no demand in these touches, no seduction, no hint. There is only warmth and naturalness, as if her body is speaking its own language of trust. It is not a taking touch, but a giving, blessing one. Why does this have such an effect? Jung spoke of the archetype of the great mother, the healer. This is not about age. It is about the energy of care, acceptance, and safety. A woman whose hands radiate calm and warmth unconsciously activates this archetype in a man. He feels that with her, he can be vulnerable. He can take off his armor. Her touch does not require him to be a strong macho man. It simply says, I'm here. It's okay. I see you. It creates a safe space. This touch is a sign that she is not afraid of closeness, but she doesn't desperately need it either. She is in harmony with her own body. She doesn't use her body as bait. She simply lives in it, and her touches are a natural extension of her inner state. This detail living, warm, gentle hands creates an invisible bond stronger than any words of love. A man might forget what they talked about, but he will never forget the feeling of her fleeting, undemanding touch. Observe your hands. Move them more slowly. Allow them to be not just tools, but expressions of your state of being. Touch objects with tenderness and curiosity. And don't be afraid of accidental, light touches in conversation. But do it only when you feel a genuine impulse, not because it's written in a pickup artist's book. Sincerity is the key. Manifestation 6. Her unique scent, impossible to forget. This isn't about perfume. Or rather, not just about perfume. Every woman has her own unique natural scent. And when she is in a state of harmony, peace, and health, this scent becomes incredibly attractive on the most primitive, animalistic level. But if we are talking about perfume, there is a huge difference here as well. There are women who douse themselves in trendy, loud, heavy fragrances. Their goal is to announce themselves, to overpower other scents, to make an impression. This is the scent of the persona, the scent of armor. It is an attempt to put on someone else's identity, however beautiful it may be. And then there is the woman whose fragrance is her second skin. It doesn't shout. It whispers. You can only catch it when you get very close, when you enter her intimate zone. It is her secret. It is an invitation into her personal space, where she doesn't let everyone in. The scent can be simple, the smell of cleanliness, a light note of sandalwood, vanilla, or citrus. But the main thing is that it has merged with her. It has become part of her essence, her olfactory signature. It's the difference between wearing a costume and wearing your own skin. The sense of smell is the oldest and most unconscious of our senses. It is directly linked to the brain's limbic system, to the centers of our emotions and memory, the amygdala and hippocampus. Scent bypasses the rational mind and strikes directly at the subconscious. When a man catches this subtle, unique scent, it becomes anchored. This scent will forever be associated with her in his mind. He will be walking down the street, catch a similar note by chance, and his heart will skip a beat. He will remember not her image, but this very sensation. Her scent. This creates an almost mystical, unbreakable bond. Jung would say that scent is the quintessence of the unconscious. It is the most direct bridge to our animal, instinctual nature, to our shadow. A woman who has found her scent and wears it like an invisible shawl, not like war paint, shows the highest level of self-awareness. She knows herself so well that she has been able to choose her own aromatic signature. This is an act of self-discovery. This detail, her subtle, almost imperceptible, yet unique scent, acts as the most powerful hypnosis. It penetrates the memory and stays there forever. Don't chase after trendy new products. Search for your scent. It may take years. Try single-note fragrances, niche perfumery, oils. Wear a scent on your wrist and listen to it throughout the day. Your scent is the one that doesn't clash with your natural skin scent, but merges with it into a single, unique melody. And let it be your little secret, accessible only to a select few. Manifestation 7. The transparency of her emotions. This is the most subtle, the deepest, and the most powerful detail. This is what distinguishes a truly living woman from a beautiful but soulless doll. It is her ability not to hide her true feelings, allowing them to be reflected on her face. But do not confuse this with theatrics, hysterics, or emotional indulgence. This is not about dumping your problems on someone else and making them responsible. It's about something else. About micro-expressions. You can read a whole story on her face. You say something that hurts her, and for a split second, a flash of pain appears in her eyes before she has time to hide it. You tell a touching story, and her eyes well up. She listens to music, and her face reflects the full range of feelings, from sadness to ecstasy. She does not try to be strong, impenetrable, convenient. She allows herself to be vulnerable. She doesn't dump her emotions on the man, nor does she blame him for them. She simply lives through them, and it shows. Emotional transparency is not a flood. It is a clear river where you can see the bottom. For a man living in a world where showing feelings is a sign of weakness, this is a shock and a revelation. He sees before him not a social role, but a soul laid bare. He sees her authenticity, and this authenticity is disarming and inspires boundless trust. He understands that no games are being played, that he is with an honest person. Jung taught that wholeness, individuation, is impossible without accepting one's shadow, one's weak, vulnerable, irrational parts. A woman who is not afraid to show her sadness, her vulnerability, her sentimentality, is a woman who has integrated her shadow. She is whole. She is not divided into a strong self for the public and a weak self when she is alone. She is one. She is not afraid of her own feelings, and therefore, she is not afraid of others. This detail, her emotional transparency, has an absolute hypnotic power. A man looks at her and understands. She is real. With her, I can be real. He sees that she is not afraid of her feelings, and this gives him unconscious permission to connect with his own repressed emotions. With her, he can take off his armor, not stop suppressing your feelings, thinking of them as a weakness. If you are sad, allow yourself to be sad. If something touches you, don't hold back tears. Not to manipulate, but to be honest with yourself. Your vulnerability is not a weakness. It is your greatest strength. It is the detail that will forever set you apart from everyone else. So, the mysterious detail that drives men mad is not just one thing. It is the radiance of your wholeness, which shines through your gaze, your movements, your voice, your smile, your touch, your scent, and your courage to feel. This is not a set of techniques you can learn in a week. It is a path of returning to yourself, a path on which you stop trying to be someone else and finally allow yourself to just be. It requires the courage to look into your shadow, to acknowledge your imperfect parts, to love yourself in all your fullness. It is not about adding something to yourself, but about removing everything extraneous, everything superficial, everything that is not you. And when you set out on this path, you will notice how the world around you changes. Men will look at you differently, not with lust, but with awe, not with a desire to possess, but with a desire to be near, because you will no longer be just a beautiful woman. You will become the embodiment of life itself, and that is the most captivating magic in the universe. For you will no longer be just a woman a man desires. You will become the experience his soul is searching for.